Jake wiped away grease from his hands as the old car sped into his driveway, with steam escaping from under the bonnet. The woman emerged from the vehicle with a tired expression, heavy eyes, creased clothes, and an empty wallet. She had barely made rent in the previous month, but Jake sensed his inability to come up with any money. He looked at his rusty tools and then his worn shoes. "I didn't ask for anything," he said. However, what caught his attention was the potential of this brief act of kindness to elicit a chain reaction that would change everything. Jake Carson's small-town repair shop had previously been filled with engines and laughter, but now was replete with silence and the occasional whimper. Despite the fact that the help wanted sign had faded away and unpaid bills were lined up on the walls, Jake opened his doors every morning with unwavering hope. That afternoon, a battered sedan sprang into view as the sun set behind the pines and smoke billowed from the hood. Jake wiped his hands and exited the vehicle. The driver's door opened slowly. A woman emerged, possibly in her late 20s, wearing a faded jacket and jeans that had seen better days. She held her phone tightly, sounding hesitant. Jake nodded off. "Wasn't she concerned about overheating?" "I think so." "I'm sorry, I didn't know where else to go." Jake put on the hood and let out a low whistle. The bullets were heard. It was fortunate that it made it to this point. She splayed her lip. "Is it possible for you to fix it?" He glanced. Before she spoke, her eyes were fixed on everything. "I don't have the money, but I was hoping you could help me pay for it later." Jake looked at him for a moment. He had food to eat, bills to pay, and a bank that was losing patience. He exhaled. "Let's leave it there." "I'll take care of it," she muttered. "Hold on, I've been there." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she couldn't help but say thank you. Jake didn't think he would see her again. People always make promises like this, but despite the fact that they'd come and fix the car, Jake decided to stay late into the night and even put a used battery in the garage. The car was ready by the morning. She came back still astonished by his generosity. "Why did you help me?" she asked softly. Jake shrugged. "You appeared to be in need of someone who believed in you. That's enough." She smiled, introduced herself as Emily, and drove away. Jake stood on the porch, watching her tail lights go out. He knew that this was the end. He was mistaken. By sunset, his lot would be encircled by vehicles that were unsuitable for a town of his. Jake was elbow-deep in an oil change when he heard the first engine. Smooth, quiet, and unmistakably expensive. He wiped his hands and stepped outside, hoping to come across a lost tourist who needed directions. However, his eyes filled with wonder as he watched as the edge of his lot was illuminated by the sudden appearance of an all-black Rolls-Royce Phantom, followed by 2 Mercedes G-Wagons, and then by more luxury vehicles that lined the road in succession, all of which sounded like they were in some bizarre automotive show. Jake squinted. The town had luxury cars that were rarer than July's snow. His heart was pounding as well-dressed drivers walked out, seemingly examining the area. A man in a sunburnt suit and sunglasses came up to him. Jake nodded in agreement and asked, "Who's up there?" The man then handed him a slick, embossed envelope, saying, "You're welcome." The back door of the Rolls-Royce opened to reveal Emily, who did not look like the shattered traveler from the previous day, despite the presence of an elegant script that reads, "You have changed someone. Now it's your turn to ask for something." She had neatly trimmed hair, a designer-style coat, and had the confident confidence of being in charge of the room. Jake shrugged off her question. "Emily, that's you." I guess you're correct." The mention of Whitmore Holdings, the company owned by my family, left Jake in awe. They had one of the wealthiest families in the nation, spanning various industries such as technology, real estate, and fashion. She said, "I didn't tell you anything, but I told you I had no money. And on that particular day, I left my house with only my name. I wanted someone benevolent and without a price tag." She nodded and said, "I found you." It was a difficult situation for Jake. "I wanted to see how you behaved when you had nothing to lose, and now I want to invest in your future." One of the men came forward and presented Jake with a folder containing various items. The contents were accompanied by new high-end tools, an advisor's financial services package, and an initial business grant that was more than Jake had earned in 10 years. Jake gasped in amazement. "What prompted Amelia to approach me? Not only did you fix my car, but you restored my faith in humanity, and I believe the world requires more from you." Jake observed the cars on the road and then looked back at the girl he had helped restore. For the first time in years, there was a feeling of hope flooding in, but it was actually reality waiting in front of him. Jake slept on the kitchen table that night, and the folder remained on his desk untouchable and changed so much that he opened it without hesitation, hoping that the numbers would disappear, the ink to fade, or the fine writing to scream. Just kidding. Every word. As the sun set, Jake returned to his shop the next morning, expecting nothing less than a hive of activity. But his lot was already teeming with construction crews, equipment trucks, architects, designers, and an entire team of experts who were busy unloading blueprints and measuring walls, assessing everything from the plumbing to the old lift system that Jake had been using for years. A tall woman wearing a hard hat approached him with her clipboard. "You must be Mr. Carson. We're here to start the transformation." Jake blinked. Did she realize that a complete rebuild is being funded by Miss Whitmore? She emphasized the importance of keeping the vintage Carson's auto sign in their place, along with state-of-the-art equipment, complete solar roofing, eco-friendly insulation, digital systems, and a customer service center. Jake muttered her voice. "This is truly taking place." She chuckled. "You merited it." Amelia arrived at the scene by noon, dressed in a modest electric car and blending in. She walked next to Jake as the old garage was stripped down. She said, "I want this place to thrive, but more importantly, I want you to lead something bigger." More extensive than car repairs, Amelia agreed. A community initiative that offers free repairs to struggling families, a mentorship program for troubled teens, practical workshops, and tangible tools. "I'll provide all the funds, but only you." The tightening of Jake's throat prompted her to look him straight in the eyes. "You chose the right path when there was no one present. It's more than just a discarded item or an outfit." Jake walked over to the shop, which was half completed, and recognized that it had strewn with memories, sweat, legends, and relics in every broken wall. It was being reintroduced, not solely as a business, and the town began to take notice. The locals stopped by with wide grins and rumors circulated. There were some truths to be gained, but others were overstated. Nonetheless, there was a clear change. Jake Carson was no longer confined to his quiet shop with grease-covered hands. He was becoming more significant. Within a week, Jake's corner of the town, which had been forgotten, became an attraction. People from nearby towns came to admire the steel structure and glossy glass panels that were rapidly developing into the most advanced auto facility in the area. However, there was more to it. The day the sign was put up, Jake stood beside it with shaking hands. Smaller words were written in silver script beneath the main logo, which was a symbol of kindness and was open to all. Jake had insisted on it, as every day brought new faces, including those who were wealthy, to inquire about Amelia's mysterious project. Some individuals were in desperate need of repairs that they couldn't afford, but Jake never hesitated to provide free diagnostics, honest advice, and socializing with others. One day, a teenage boy named Mateo showed up. A few blocks away, his mother's car had crashed while she was working 2 jobs, and her shoelaces were untied, causing her to slump with slumped shoulders. Jake responded by dispatching an adapted tow truck to the scene for free. The next morning, Mateo came back alone and asked if he could learn something. Jake gave him gloves and instructed him to start with the oil change. Word spread quickly, and more teens followed suit. Jake constructed a workbench exclusively for them. He also instructed them on how to take pride in their hands, even though some had been absent from school for some time and never had one. Jake's garage provided them with guidance and dignity, while Amelia watched from the sidelines. She frequently visited, blending in, and refused to give credit. When asked why she chose Jake, she would only attribute his choice to people. Jake closed the shop late one night. He stood near the new sign, which was now softly glowing under LED lights. The mentorship workshop was filled with laughter and tools as he looked up at the stars, then at his own cold hands. Although many things had changed, the core of his being had not. What started as a small act of kindness had grown into something more significant. Jake could sense it, but it was not apparent how close he had come to experiencing it. After 2 months, Jake attended a charity gala and stood on stage, never having imagined he would attend such an event. His black suit was slightly uncomfortable, but his height allowed him to stand up. The spotlights were illuminating and cameras were flashing. The grand ballroom was filled with hundreds of people, including executives, celebrities, and local heroes, who were eager to hear about the mechanic who gave away a free repair and ended up changing towns. Jake's tone was steady as he stated, "I'm not able to speak, but I fix engines." I used to think I was fine until someone approached him, but then he felt compelled to take action and search the crowd. He saw Amelia, who remained unidentified and did not offer any promises or handshakes. She simply asked for help, and I agreed to do what felt like an appropriate response. "Alexa, I am glad that she has come back to you too." The reason for my reaction was not due to fear, but rather my recollection of being in her position. He paused briefly and then glanced back to discover that was never his intention. The money, shop, and press were the determining factors of the true reward. Mateo and his peers arrived not only to improve his mechanic skills, but also to renew their faith in themselves. He received a boisterous round of applause as he stepped back. Emilia joined him on stage, clutching an elegant envelope. She smiled and nodded as she handed him the envelope, acknowledging that he was deserving of the world's attention and contributing to its creation. Inside, she held an envelope forwarded to a large facility outside the town. A learning center, shelter, and training ground for the world's forgotten. It was already 10 acres in size. Jake would take charge and not sleep on that night. He sat under the stars, holding the deed and listening to the night noises of the town he had previously believed would swallow him whole. Everything had changed for the better. He chose to help without expecting anything in return. His shop had become a figurehead, his hands became hope, and his heart, which was unwavering and unyielding, became the beating heart of something much larger than himself. Kindness had come full circle and left an indelible legacy.